All right, thank you for staying with us. We still have our guests in the studio, and we have been looking at the appointments made by the president after he retired service chiefs. Before we went on the break, Darlington, you were talking about how they should hit the ground running, and you mentioned diplomacy.
Yes.
I'd like for you to expatiate on that as well.
Of course, you remember recently the victims of the train attack.
Yes.
Government tried as much as possible to use military might against the bandits, those who kidnapped the train victims on the Abuja-Kaduna corridor.
Yes.
But eventually, what did Irabo do? Talking about the immediate past chief of defense staff. What did he do? He created a committee, and then he adopted the use of diplomacy. And that committee worked with the bandits, and virtually everybody who was left. Don't forget that they were released in batches.
Yes.
As they paid the ransom, they were released. But it got to a point where the military had to sit down to say, Irabo had to sit down with his men and say, okay, gentlemen, I think beyond the use of military might, force, let's also go this other way. And he got that committee, 7 men or 5 men, I can't remember precisely the figure now.
I think about 7 of them.
About 7 of them, and they went into action. They discussed with these men, and eventually every last person who was with them was released. And that was the end of that story. Sometimes, there's nowhere, I've said this severally, there's nowhere in the world where war was fought and you don't end up on a round table eventually to bring that war to a close. It's not all about military might. Yes, you might have all the military might. Yes, you might have all the firearms. Yes, you might have all the ammunitions. But again, sometimes you need to sit with these people and discuss with them and say, okay, why don't we do it this way and do it this way? That could calm down nerves.
Kinetic approaches.
Kinetic
Always.
approaches, yes. So,
always.
So when you achieve that, you will get results also. But sometimes there are times you don't also need that. You also need the military might. You clamp down on them. Sometimes first, but eventually you still come back to that round table. That was what I refer to as that diplomatic approach, which Irabo used. Eventually we saw in the release of the train victims who were taken on that Abuja-Kaduna corridor. We hope, apparently, like I said initially, these service chiefs were not brought from one other country. They've been a part of the system. They've worked under all of these chiefs, one way or the other. The chief of defense staff was the commander of Hakinkai, you call it? Adinkai, yes. And so they've all, one way or the other, worked with these service chiefs. They are experienced people. They didn't come from the blues. The chief of naval staff was a part of the ECOMOG team at the time, okay? And so all of this, what they need to do now, the beautiful thing is that they've even, beyond being military officers, one way or the other, they were in the NDA at the time together. So now they need to synergize. They need to sit down, bring out a blueprint. Mr. President, this is, because Mr. President is, of course, has done what is normal. If you have a new administration, he must pick his team, like the retired colonel rightly said. You must pick your first 11, okay? It does not matter where they come from. It does not matter. I do not subscribe to that fact. I do not. What we need at this point in time in Nigeria, if they are all from, if you want to pick all your men from the southeast, that will give this country results, that will take us back and blow up the economy of this country, that will take away poverty from the land, that is pushing a lot of youth into crimes today. Simple. Please take them. Please go to the southeast and pick all of them. I don't mind. But what I want to see is result. What I want to see is for Nigeria to return. Until after some time, football, the Nigerian Football League was no longer played in Borno. But it got to a time now, Football League has returned to Borno. Certain roads that were condoned off completely in Borno have been opened. So irrespective of where your team is coming from, what is paramount in the mind of whoever is speaking his team is you will give me a result.
Right.
And one thing we have seen so far in this administration, from day one, His Excellency has hit the ground running. We've seen changes. We've seen people who have been dropped. We've seen even the...
Thank you very much.
Let's have just deviate a bit from his approach.
Okay.
I agree with the bulk of the things he's saying, but our approach in how to tailor them. I would advise the president to begin to look in the direction of we coming up with a national security sector reforms. If we can put that in place, which of course will also give us a national security sector governance template. With that, we shall be addressing nearly 75% of the issues governing, within the ambit of our national security. We shall be addressing funding, manpower, logistics and equipment, welfare and motivation, operations and training. You mention it. By the time you address all these nearly 10 issues I've just mentioned, you have taken care of about 75% of it. We have the brains. We have individuals who can sit down and discuss these things. Within 1 month, 2 months, we'll come out with a fantastic paper. Given the level of seriousness we begin to see at the political strategic level now, we begin to implement the template and come out with far better things. He has talked about synergy. That synergy must be characterized by coordination, cooperation, and of course, what's it called? The 3 C's anyway. Okay, coordination, cooperation, and what have you. I'll let you know when I know later. Then, of course, we should not forget to also ensure that in whatever we are doing, which we did not see in the last dispensation,
Yes.
our national interest comes first. Look, the Americans will tell you, oh, this is the best practice for this is the best practice for this. When it comes to implementation, if it does not suit America's national interests, they go their own way. And there are examples I can mention to you within the military. All right?
Go ahead.
Okay. The Americans will tell you, you do not negotiate with terrorists. When the time comes, they negotiate with terrorists.
They did.
They did.
Okay.
In the days of Sergeant Bo.
But these are people
5 deadly Taliban.
These are the people who, in their best practice template,
Tell you they don't
they'll tell you
negotiate with
don't
terrorists.
negotiate with
Yes.
When it has to do with the America's interests, you bloody well negotiate.
Yes.
And that is why I pick exception, and I keep saying it. A lot of my colleagues disagree with me when I say this. How come we have all these thousands of individuals you call, oh, they surrendered. They were Boko Haram elements or they were terrorists, and then they surrendered, and so you had to move them. You are giving me, frankly speaking, as a commander in the battlefront, a subordinate commander comes to me with enemy elements that because they surrendered and so on, to bloody hell with your international...
Choice of words.
Look, keep all those your international...
but there's the UN Convention.
Yes, I know. The people who came up with the UN Convention normally sidetrack it too and do what they want to do. Because the point I'm making is this. Today we have hundreds of thousands of individuals whom we are feeding free of charge, whom we are sheltering, whom we are clothing, whom we are picking medical bills on. And these are the same guys who brought us to where we are today. Nigerians who are their victims are suffering out there in the cold. No shelter.
Yeah.
This same government has not been able to provide medical care for them.
No, not this government, the former government.
Oh, sorry, yes. Okay. All right, the point I'm making is that the man who created the problem is now enjoying.
Yes.
His victims, your brother and my own brother, and their own brothers too, are now suffering.
Yes.
The mistake you made was that you never brought him down when you saw him in the forest with his AK-47. You were busy romancing him until he dropped it and hands up. And then now, of course, you are, as a professional soldier, you are compelled to now bring in the international rule to say, oh, he has surrendered, so I cannot bring him down. The best I can do is to take him PW.
Yes.
What were you doing when you saw him? What were all our aircrafts doing to have cleared that place? We should fight this battle with some number 6, knowing that there is a need to reduce the number of these guys who are giving us these problems. If you do not reduce their number, you are probably playing with your tomorrow. And that's why I tried mentioning the issue of the non-kinetic efforts that should be brought into play. If you go up north, my northern governors are still playing with certain things that makes us continue to sit on a time bomb. And I'm referring specifically to the kids, out-of-school kids up north, who are numbering to over 13 million now, roaming all over the streets, placed on their neck, looking for food. That is Boko Haram we are breeding.
Yes.
Those of us giving them 10 kobo and 1 naira and so on, you're always sustaining them. When the time comes, they will pick up arms against us. What should be done? What are the governors doing? Why are these kids on the streets and you feel so comfortable?
Jonathan started a project and school for them, but it was not followed by, by the state governments.
I just don't want to go into all those areas because this country, look, we have to be very serious and take what would actually improve our condition of living, especially the ordinary Nigerian on the streets. Not you and I who can still manage to move on.
No, just you. we are the commoners. I'm sure Veronica is in my team.
We are together.
Well, heaven knows who is suffering. Sincerely speaking,
right.
I am not too happy with the way my northern governors are administering. I want to believe that with the new governors that are coming on board now, a good number of them must have really seen that there is a need for us to do a lot on ground. Not a situation where 50 cars are parked in our houses. And so what are you doing with 50 cars? That we are even getting 50 cars in your house.
Right. Let's also come back to this matter. There are those who have raised concerns with regards to the relationship or synergy between the NSA and the new chiefs. Now, I'm just saying there are those who raise concerns. There are those who raise concerns.
I adjusted. Bad lady.
There are those who have raised concerns. No, these are genuine concerns that has to be talked about.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
About the fact that he is a non-military personnel.
Yes.
He has a non-military background.
Yes.
And these persons who have a military background reporting to him, how do you see that relationship going forward? What do you think the president can do such that the synergy is strong and that we do not have a break in the relationship that he intends to build with all of these persons? Let me stick with you.
Talking about synergy, I know among the service chiefs, there's really going to be a high-level synergy because 2 of them, the chief of SSAF and chief of NASAF, are even childhood friends. When I say childhood friends, they went through my school, Nigerian Military School Zaria. Right. You come to Military School Zaria at the age of 13, 14. They were all classmates from Military School Zaria. From there to academy, and they've all risen in ranks and seen themselves again today as service chiefs. So there's been this paddy thing all along, oh boy, and so on. So this is not the time to quarrel.
Well, with the NSC, yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming there. I'm trying to tell you that with the service chiefs, we don't have much problem. CG Musa is a fine, gentle, quiet, nice soldier, a soldier's soldier. So they don't have really much problems. But I would talk like a soldier now. It is at times very difficult, okay, for we to see ourselves subordinate to any paramilitary force.
Right.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
I know what I'm saying because in the first instance, like a soldier, you ask yourself, what nature of exposure has he? What has he seen? For instance, I talking here, I've been to Liberia, I've seen battle. So when I discuss operations, I know what I'm talking. I've been to Liberia, I've seen battles. I've been to Darfur where I commanded troops and I've seen battles. I've been to Bakassi Peninsula, I've seen battles. So when I talk about operations, I know what I'm talking about. Forget that I'm even a colonel. They'll talk of a general who probably must have now been exposed to the War College and some other things like that and so on. And then you bring somebody who does not have this wealth of experience, place him over me in a wartime. Nigeria is at war, whether we want to accept it or not. Place him over me in a war situation. If this had come when Nigeria was in peace, or were to be at peace, maybe some of us would say, look, let's move on. But not at this time. As an individual, I take exception to it, and I know a good number of my colleagues will take exception to it and tell you, no, this is not proper. The president would have been well advised. However, whatever the case, like they say in show business, the show must go on. Okay? And so we all just have to move on with him and so on. Let's believe the service chiefs would, of course, cooperate with him. But I know it's not going to be easy, but let's just believe they'll put aside a lot of things and walk along with him as their boss.
Like we mentioned earlier, Nigeria's interest is what is...
The national interest.
National interest is what comes first. Don't you think?
You're turning at me and you're looking at me. I thought you would have finished it there on that side of the table.
No.
But I'm seeing that you're gradually turning and still coming back to me.
No, yes. National interest should come first.
The truth is, at this point in time, what we often talk to them about when we train security agents is on synergy. Mr. President apparently must have been advised. These areas must also, I want to believe, was also mentioned to him, was brought to his knowledge. But there's a military command: obey before complain. Mr. President has chosen them as a team. Ordinarily, both the military and the security agencies are meant to work together. That was why Mr. President himself did talk about the clearinghouse. This is where all of them are supposed to meet. But the truth is, the service chiefs, aside from reporting to the defense minister that will still come, they also report to the NSA, whoever is the NSA at a given time. Let's also look at it from this point of view. The last administration had a retired colonel heading the Nigerian Customs Service, the NCS, and he performed very well.
Of course.
Ali performed so well. He raised the bar for income generation for the country, and he sanitized the Nigerian customs, at least to a point, as against what we used to have. Okay? I would have completely frowned at it if the NSA, the new NSA, had no security background at all.
Right.
And then considering the rank, AIG, it meant that it would have not gained the kind of military experience at the theater like he was referring to now. But he had gained some experience in terms of security matters as a security agent, And so we hope, like he said, sincerely, that the body language of the security chiefs would not betray them against the NSA. Mr. President has chosen them as a team. Whether you like me or I don't like you, as much as we need to play this game, what Nigerians want to see is results.
Absolutely.
Simple.
What Nigerians, in 1985, the first eaglets that we had, 75% of them were from one state, different cultural background. But when they came together, the coach, who is the president, now said, this is what we want result. What Nigerians are looking for now, what Nigerians are expecting from all of them is synergy that will give us synergy in all ramifications. Okay, that will give us the result. Now, agreed that it is the first time we are having somebody without a military background that is assuming that office as the National Security Advisor to Mr. President. Okay, but even so, the NSA has its track record, particularly when he worked with the EFCC as the first chairman of that organization, and he recorded huge results. Apparently, Mr. President first I think he was first named as a special advisor on security. I'm sure there are other qualities we would have seen in him. And particularly, let's not miss this point, particularly Mr. President or whoever is the president of Nigeria at a given time will be placing people in certain positions that he believes with his team that will give him results. And that would again be very loyal to him. You don't take away loyalty here, please.
Very important.
You don't take away loyalty. We've seen Nuhu Ribadu with Mr. President before Mr. President became president, work together in one political party at a point in time when he was presidential candidate of that political party. Okay, so apparently he has a lot of trust, he has a lot of belief, he's speaking his team. And one thing I know about this president is that the day he is convinced that you are not delivering, you are out of his team. Because there's always a reserve team that will be waiting to take over the place of a particular person in that team if he's not doing well. But so far, we need to encourage them to work together as a team, irrespective of their military background, irrespective of their security background. But all in all, they are all security. They fall into that circle of security personnel. People who want to work assiduously for this country within that regime to give Nigeria results. Now we need to sleep with our two eyes closed if they give us what we expect from them. Now we want to see the economy boom because now a lot of things are being affected. The economy is affected up north. The economy is affected in the southeast, particularly with the sit-at-home order for Mondays. That has affected because the southeast is like the Japan. It's like the China of Nigeria, where manufacturing and production actually takes place, fabrication and all of that. Fabrication now, I'm not talking about the blacksmiths. I'm talking about materials, okay, where you can see they manufacture something. Sometimes you begin to wonder whether it was actually from here or from north. And so in all, Mr. President apparently is convinced that one is going to get loyalty and two, that this team is going to perform. And so far, this team, I have huge respect for the team.
All right.
And I know they will do something good.
We'll have to leave the conversation here now, gentlemen. Most thank you, security consultant Darlington Imuru, as well as convener Fix Nigeria Now, retired Colonel Hassan Stanlambu, for your time on the program. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thanks.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.